It was the last week of August 2006 when Jacob Hill disappeared. The kind of warm, dry day that clings to your memory. Not because it's special, but because it should have been ordinary. Jacob was 5, a curious, happy child with a mop of dirty blonde hair and a love for toy trucks. His parents, Sarah and Matthew Hill, had dropped him off at his grandparents' cabin near the edge of Fern Creek Forest for a weekend getaway. The area was familiar, even comforting. They'd visited every summer since Jacob was born. That Saturday, while his grandmother baked pies and his grandfather fixed the old well pump, Jacob played just a few feet from the back porch. His plastic truck bounced over roots and gravel as he made engine sounds with his mouth. The trees behind the cabin stood tall and still, casting long, slow-moving shadows in the afternoon sun. "Stay where we can see you, Jake," his grandmother called. "I will," he chirped back. Then came the silence. Not a scream, not a cry, just a hush, unnatural and unnerving. When his grandmother looked out again, Jacob was gone. She called for him first, casually at first, then with growing concern. When there was no answer, she ran into the trees, calling louder, shouting, "Now!" His grandfather dropped his tools and joined her. Within 20 minutes, they were combing the woods, searching every bush and trail, shouting Jacob's name into the thickening forest. By sunset, local police had arrived. Within 2 days, a full search team of over 60 volunteers and officers had been deployed. Bloodhounds were brought in. Drones scanned the area. Helicopters hovered over the pine canopy. Nothing, not a footprint, not a shred of fabric, not a sound. It was as if the forest had swallowed Jacob whole. Theories spread like wildfire. The media arrived quickly, drawn by the mystery of a child vanishing without a trace. Jacob's face was soon on every news broadcast, milk carton, and telephone pole across the state. His parents appeared on camera in a haze of desperation, clinging to each other and begging for help. People speculated. Maybe he'd wandered off and fallen into one of the many hidden sinkholes in the forest. Maybe he'd been taken by a passing stranger. Maybe, and this whispered theory made the rounds more than anyone wanted to admit, maybe something in the forest had taken him. Some locals told stories of strange things in those woods, animals that didn't run when they should, lights that flickered deep between the trees, even rumors about the land being cursed. Stories that most dismissed until Jacob vanished. But none of it brought answers. By late September, the official search was called off. The Hill family never gave up. They held on to hope for years. Every birthday, they left a toy truck at the edge of the woods. Every Christmas, a light in Jacob's window. Every year, Sarah wrote a letter to her son and placed it in a box beneath her bed, just in case he ever came home. Fern Creek Forest, autumn 2022. It was the smell of rain on pine that drew their attention, sharp and earthy. A storm had passed the night before, leaving the forest wet and breathing. The hunters, 2 brothers named Chris and Daniel Rourke, were tracking deer signs near the old logging trails, the same ones their father used decades ago. They weren't expecting anything strange, just tracks, maybe a buck if they were lucky. But something caught Chris's eye, a sliver of unnatural shape beneath a thick pile of pine needles. He almost walked past it, assuming it was trash, but when he crouched down and brushed the debris away, what he uncovered wasn't plastic or metal. It was wood, a toy truck, hand-carved, small, barely the length of his palm, simple wheels, no paint, just smooth curves and the faint lines of someone's fingertips still visible in the grain. But it hadn't been there long. The wood was clean, almost freshly sanded, with no signs of rot. No moss, no insects boring into it. It looked out of place, untouched by the forest. Chris turned it over. That's when his breath caught in his throat. On the underside, carved in crude, unsteady letters, Jacob H. He froze. "Dan," he said quietly, holding the truck out like a fragile relic. Daniel looked at it, then back at his brother. "That's not possible." But it was. They both remembered the case. Everyone around Fern Creek did. The boy who vanished, the years of search parties, the endless heartbreak. Chris snapped a photo of the carving and texted it to their friend Ellie, a local deputy. Within hours, the forest was once again alive with voices, marked paths, and flashing lights. The experts had questions, but no answers. The toy was taken to the lab, tests were run, the wood was identified as white pine native to the region. No signs of aging beyond a few months. The cut marks, especially the carved letters, were sharp, recent, less than a year old. It wasn't just strange, it was impossible, because Jacob Hill had vanished 16 years ago, and this toy looked like someone had just placed it there. Sarah and Matthew Hill were called in to see it. Sarah trembled when her fingers touched the toy. "He loved trucks," she whispered, voice cracking. "He used to draw wheels with 5 spokes, just like this." Matthew didn't speak. He just stared at the name on the bottom, his face pale, haunted. The question swirled again, faster this time, louder. Was it a cruel prank? Someone reopening old wounds? But who would be so cruel, so careful? Or had someone been with Jacob all these years? And if so, where was he now? It was a chilly morning in early November when Deputy Ellie Jensen received a call that would deepen the mystery surrounding Jacob Hill's disappearance. The voice on the other end was shaky but determined. "I think you need to know something about Jacob," said Harold, a retired mailman who had served the Fern Creek area for over 30 years. Harold explained that years ago, shortly after Jacob vanished, he had found an unusual letter in his sorting bin. Unlike typical mail, it was addressed simply to Jacob Hill, with no return address, no stamp, and no postmark. Curiously, the letter was never delivered. It had been tucked away in an old forgotten box in the back of the post office. "The handwriting looked like a child's," Harold said. "I always felt it was important, but no one ever asked for it." Ellie arranged to meet Harold at the police station. The letter, surprisingly well preserved despite the years, was handed over with a mixture of hope and fear. The letter's contents. The message inside was brief, written in a shaky, childish scrawl. "Dear Jacob, I'm sorry I took you. I didn't mean to. I want you to come home. Please don't be scared. I'm watching over you." There was no signature. Ellie showed the letter to Sarah and Matthew Hill. Sarah's hands trembled as she read the words, tears welling in her eyes. "It sounds like he's alive," she whispered, her voice fragile. "Someone's been with him. Or maybe he wrote it." Matthew shook his head. "But he was only 5. Who could have written this?" A new lead. The letter reignited hope and suspicion alike. Was it possible someone had taken Jacob and kept him hidden all these years? Had Jacob somehow survived and written the letter himself? Forensic analysis revealed the ink was recent, no older than 5 years. The paper was ordinary notebook paper, but bore no fingerprints. The handwriting experts noted the uneven letter sizes and shaky lines suggested a child or someone trying to imitate one. The mystery deepened. Late one autumn afternoon in 2023, a group of local teenagers, Maya, Lucas, and their friends, ventured deeper into Fern Creek Forest than they ever had before. They were chasing rumors of an abandoned treehouse, whispered about among kids but never fully confirmed. Maya, a keen observer with a taste for adventure, led the group. "If this treehouse really exists," she said, "it could be the perfect hideout." After an hour of bushwhacking through thick underbrush, they found it. A ramshackle structure built high in a sturdy pine. The wood was aged and weather-beaten, but still solid. Lucas climbed up first, his flashlight revealing crude carvings on the beams, symbols and letters intertwined with numbers. The most striking carving was a sequence of letters, Jacob H., 2006. The air grew heavier. Maya touched the carving reverently, her heart pounding. Inside the treehouse. The group entered the treehouse. Inside, dust-covered broken toys, a torn children's book, and scraps of paper scattered across the floor. One of the papers caught Maya's eye, a faded drawing of a small wooden truck, remarkably similar to the one found recently. Lucas found something else, a notebook with pages filled in a child's handwriting, shaky but legible. Maya opened it slowly. The notes told a fragmented story about a boy who played in the woods, who hid from something scary, and who promised to come back home soon. A hidden message. On the last page was a phrase carved into the paper's edge. "I'm not lost. Watch the pine needles." The group exchanged uneasy glances. Was this a message from Jacob? Their discovery sparked new questions. Who built this treehouse? How long had it been there? And was Jacob really inside the forest all this time? The morning after the teenagers' discovery, the forest buzzed with renewed urgency. Deputy Ellie Jensen led a small team of investigators back to the treehouse, followed closely by Sarah and Matthew Hill. The air was thick with anticipation and fear, a mixture that clung to every inch of Fern Creek forest. Ellie knelt on the forest floor beneath the treehouse, eyes scanning the ground. She remembered the cryptic message from the notebook. Watch the pine needles. Pine needles carpeted the forest floor in a soft, reddish-brown layer, hiding every contour and crevice. But something felt different here. The disturbance. Ellie's fingers sifted through the needles until her nails scraped against something solid, a smooth wooden surface buried just inches beneath the forest floor. Carefully, the team began to clear away the needles and dirt. What emerged was a small, weathered wooden box. Its edges were rough, as if carved by hand, and its lid was sealed with a rusty old clasp. Matthew's hands trembled as he reached for the box. Could this be... Inside the box lay a collection of objects. A faded photograph of Jacob, smiling in front of the cabin. A small, carved wooden truck, identical to the one found recently, but smaller. A folded, handwritten note, this one more precise and urgent. The note. Sarah unfolded the note with trembling hands. The writing was clearer than the earlier letter, though still childlike. If you find this, please don't give up on me. I'm scared but safe. The woods aren't what they seem. Trust no one. Follow the pine needles. The words sent a chill through everyone present. The unseen trail. The note's warning haunted Ellie. She ordered a more thorough search around the area, focusing on the ground beneath the trees. As the search progressed, the wood team discovered a faint trail, almost invisible, marked by subtle disturbances in the pine needle layer. Following this trail led deeper into the forest to a hidden clearing surrounded by thick pines and shadows. At the clearing's center was an ancient stone, carved with strange symbols that pulsed faintly under the sunlight. The clearing was eerily silent, almost as if the forest itself was holding its breath. Deputy Ellie Jensen stepped cautiously forward, her flashlight cutting through the dim light beneath the dense pine canopy. The ancient stone at the center seemed to hum with a quiet power, its strange symbols carved deep into the rough granite. Sarah and Matthew stood behind Ellie, their faces pale but determined. The years of pain etched in their eyes made the air thick with emotion. "We've never seen anything like this," Ellie whispered, kneeling to examine the carvings. The symbols weren't like any known alphabet or language, a twisting script of jagged lines and swirling circles, resembling ancient runes but unfamiliar. The watchers. Suddenly a crackling sound snapped through the silence. Branches snapped somewhere in the shadows surrounding the clearing. "Did you hear that?" Sarah's voice trembled. From the edge of the tree line, movement flickered, dark shapes slipping between trunks, watching. Ellie's hand went to her radio, but her voice caught in her throat. The figures didn't step forward. They simply watched, silent, still, their presence a chilling reminder that they were not alone. Matthew whispered, "We're being watched." The clearing suddenly felt like a trap. The ancient stone, the hidden messages, the watchers in the dark. It was as if the forest had secrets it wasn't willing to share, a warning from the past. On the stone, Ellie noticed fresh scratches near the carvings, small, hurried marks that looked like letters. She traced them carefully. Leave now, or lose everything. The warning was clear, but Ellie's resolve only hardened. There was something, or someone, in the woods connected to Jacob's disappearance. And now the stakes were higher than ever. 2 days after the chilling encounter in the clearing, a stranger appeared at the Fern Creek police station. His name was Ethan Blackwood, a man in his late 30s with sharp eyes that seemed to see too much and a quiet intensity that made everyone uneasy. Ethan requested to speak privately with Deputy Ellie Jensen. "I know what happened to Jacob Hill," he said without preamble. Ellie studied him carefully. "And you are?" "A longtime resident of these woods," Ethan replied. "More than that, I've been part of things you can't imagine." The truth he shared. Ethan claimed to have lived near Fern Creek all his life and knew about a secret community hidden within the forest. People who kept to themselves, shrouded in mystery and silence. They believed the woods were sacred, protected by ancient forces. "Jacob wandered too close to their hidden places," Ethan said. "He saw something he wasn't supposed to see. They took him in, not to hurt him, but to keep their secrets safe." He described how the community carved the wooden toys as a way to connect with the outside world, messages meant to be found, clues to the boy's survival. "But 16 years, why now?" Ellie asked. "Because someone inside is breaking the rules," Ethan whispered. "Someone who wants the truth out, and someone who might be dangerous." Doubt and desperation. Sarah and Matthew listened to Ethan's story with a mixture of hope and skepticism. Could this stranger really hold the answers they'd searched for over the years? Ellie warned, "We have to be careful. If there's a hidden community here, they won't want us digging around." Ethan nodded grimly. "You're already too deep. The shadows in the clearing are watching. They're coming." The night air was thick with tension as Sarah, Matthew, Ellie, and Ethan retraced their steps toward the edge of Fern Creek Forest. The moon was a pale sliver, barely illuminating the tangled underbrush and gnarled roots beneath their feet. Every crunch of leaves felt like a shout in the silent woods. "We need to get out," Ellie whispered, glancing nervously over her shoulder. "They're close." Ethan led the way, moving with a cautious urgency born from years navigating these shadowy paths. "They don't want anyone leaving with what we know," he said. "They'll try to stop us." The attack. Suddenly, figures emerged from the darkness, fast and silent, shadows taking shape as masked figures wielding makeshift weapons appeared between the trees. The group scattered, desperate to evade capture. Sarah clutched Matthew's hand tightly, fear fueling her every step. Ellie's heart pounded as she radioed for backup, but the thick forest blocked signals. Ethan shouted, "This way!" pulling them toward a narrow ravine. They ran, branches slashing at their faces, breaths ragged and sharp. Behind them, the masked figure's pursuit grew louder, more relentless narrow escape. At the ravine's edge, a steep climb awaited. Sarah looked back, panic rising. "They're gaining on us!" Matthew hoisted Sarah up first, then Ellie. Ethan was last, turning just long enough to face their pursuers. With a swift motion, he shoved a fallen branch to block the path. The masked figures halted momentarily, voices raised in frustration. Using the distraction, the group scrambled up the rocky slope, adrenaline pushing them beyond exhaustion. Safety. For now. Emerging from the forest's edge, they found a dirt road where a patrol car waited. Backup finally arrived. Breathing heavily, Sarah collapsed into Matthew's arms. Ellie looked back toward the dark woods, the glowing eyes of the watchers retreating into the trees. They had escaped, but the secret of the forest and of Jacob Hill was far from resolved. The dawn light spilled over Fern Creek as Sarah, Matthew, Ellie, and Ethan gathered in the local community center, now under police protection. After weeks of searching and evading shadowy threats, the moment had come to uncover the truth behind Jacob's disappearance. Ethan took a deep breath, his eyes steady. "The people you've heard about, the hidden community, they call themselves the Keepers. They protect the forest's ancient secrets, guarding a boundary between this world and something else. Jacob's fate." Ethan explained that Jacob had been found by the Keepers shortly after his disappearance. Rather than harm him, they took him in, raising him within their secret enclave. He was safe, but isolated, growing up surrounded by their rituals and codes. The wooden toys, Ethan said, were messages, a language only the keepers understand, signals of his presence and well-being. Jacob, however, had begun questioning their ways, longing for the outside world. The recent carved truck and notes were his way of reaching out, a desperate plea for rescue. The final confrontation. With the police's help, Ellie led a careful negotiation with the keepers' leaders. They agreed to bring Jacob back, on the condition that their sacred forest remain respected and protected. And then, in the quiet of the morning, Jacob Hill walked through the community center doors, no longer a missing child, but a teenager with wide, uncertain eyes. Healing and hope. Sarah and Matthew embraced their son, tears streaming down their faces. The years of pain, the endless searching, the nightmares, they were finally over. Jacob looked around, hesitant but hopeful. "I want to come home," he said softly. The forest's secrets remained, shrouded in mystery, but a family was reunited.